Welcome to the pecha-kucha on Mugyo. In case you don't know, a pecha-kucha is a short presentation, usually 20 slides at 20 seconds each, but I am a little bit new to the genre, so I'm running 12 slides at 30 seconds each. Please bear with me, and I'll do my best to stick within that framework. Alright, here we go. So the first thing to talk about when you're discussing Mugyo is the name. Since Mugyo is a Korean word, you have a variety of names in English and in other languages that come from Chinese characters and other things. You can see a list of them here. I want to point out specifically Mudang, which sometimes is used for the religion, but is more specifically for this woman here, the person who performs the rites, and Korean shamanism, which helps us connect to shamanism in general across the world. Shamanism is a particularly interesting form of belief system, and I have this picture because one of the key parts of shamanism is a belief in a spirit world that exists within and almost on top of our physical world. And the spirit world has demons and spirits and gods and goddesses that are both positive and negative, and that help and hurt us. And the key thing about the spirit world is that we can't see it, but it can always affect us. It can come into our world and change things for us. So here you have kind of a version of that, an animated version of that, where you have this girl being affected by this spirit. You see the spirit is there on the left, and she's interfering with the real world girl on the right and forcing her to write these kind of demonic symbols on the floor, on the bottom there. That's a classic example of how spirits from the spirit world can come into our world and make negative changes. But that's not the only way that they can do that. And in fact, the purpose of shamanism, and here you see a mudang, a Korean shaman, the purpose of shamanism is for shamans to connect to the spirit world and to help the spirit world help us instead of hurt us. And in Korean shamanism, that happens a specific way in that each mudang, each shaman, has a connection to a spirit. A spirit can come, and in the case of mudang, inhabit her, and she can learn to deal and work with that spirit, and her connection to that spirit helps her connect with the spirit world. But Korea obviously is over here, but that's not the only place where shamanism is practiced even today. We think that in the past, shaman was practiced possibly in all human populations, but now shamanism is particularly practiced in Siberia, in Mongolia, in the northern part of Asia, in some parts of northern Europe, in northern North America, and Africa has a lot of shamanism as well. But as I said, many parts of the world had shamanism in the past. Here are two examples of some shamanistic costumes from other parts of the world. Over here you have what is written as an Eskimo costume, but and what we call Alaska today, from the state of Alaska, you have a shaman, and he is exorcising a spirit from this boy. And you can see that this costume is quite fearsome, probably for two reasons. One, to maybe scare the spirits, but also to help with people. In Korea, you have the practice of shamanism and the connection with the spirit world going back into an origin story. This gentleman is called the Tongun, and he is the mythical first king of Korea, and he is supposed to be the son of a god, of a spirit, and a woman who came from a bear. So Korean shamanism stretches all the way back to its origin myth. And even after that, through the early kingdoms of Korea, the kings and queens had the dual role of a king or queen, of a political ruler, and of a shaman or a religious leader. And part of the evidence for that is this crown is from the Shilla period of Korea, and it bears really striking resemblances to this shamanistic crown. So you can see that this shamanistic crown from Siberia has these antlers, and here you can see the antlers kind of in a stylistically molded form in the gold. So for a long time, Mugyo, Korean shamanism, was the only belief system in town in Korea, and it dominated both the cultural and political landscape of the country. Pretty much everybody more or less believed in it, and especially the ruling class believed in it. The king was a shaman king. If there were queens, they were shaman queens, and people looked to them. They gained their power from their ability to connect to the spirit world. People believed that they were connected to that. But with the Shilla dynasty, things began to change as Buddhism was imported from China, and it came to China from India. And as Buddhism came into Korea, Buddhism became the real religion of the ruling elite. And at the same time, Buddhism and Mugyo influenced each other. Mugyo practices changed to reflect new Buddhism practices, and Buddhist practices in Korea are different than in China, and some of that is the result of Mugyo influence. In the last 400 years, there was another big change. Christianity came to Korea, and Christianity had a rather negative point of view about Mugyo, and so as Christianity has become more popular, Mugyo really became less popular, and that's been the real big theme over the last 400 years, with Mugyo really declining, especially in through the 1950s. But in the last 30 years or so, Mugyo has actually seen a resurgence. And here you can see on a boat, a mudang performing a gut to bless the boat and give it good fishing. And you can see there, I've circled a videographer. There are also microphones. This is a modern Mugyo ceremony that shows how Mugyo has changed and become real part of Korean's cultural heritage, and is looked on maybe less as a religion and more on a series of rituals that people can use to remember their culture, remember their ancestors, and honor those things. Thank you very much for watching, and please check out our next screencast, which will be about Zoroastrianism.